One. Every time it says it, recording in progress. Hi, everyone. I'm Winona, and welcome to the Ladies Tale podcast. Okay, this feels a little weird for me to first of all hit the fact that I'm Winona, and then I welcome you to the Ladies Tale podcast without any weird banter in between. Way too, for emphasis, freaking professional. Way too professional for me. I'm starting to feel like I must be drunk sober. I must be so sober I'm drunk. That has to be the explanation. Anyway, let's move on in this whole thing. I do not have a Jade. Jade is missing today, and this is hence why I'm just bouncing. We wrote books. When I say we, I meant me and the missing Jade, otherwise known as the And I Thought Ladies Wrote Books. We have And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, If Only I Were Me, a memoir in verse, Widow's Web, Widow's Debt, and Foreign Coffee. All of those are audiobooks. And in case you're not doing the video, I actually counted them out. That's 6 audiobooks. If you want to hear those, and you got a little time at the beach, sneak on out and go and get those as your audiobooks. If not, you can find out about the rest of the 17 books and everything else that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughtLadies.com. Yes, I think I hit the salespitch.com perfectly today. Well, oh, my guest is awesome. She's doing the poetic snaps. All right, so that's enough about me. You're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear from our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm still not comfortable on Zoom. My name is Mary Kornhauser, or Sister Mary Maria, as many people call me. And don't talk to me before 10:30 a.m. If you hear heavy panting in the background, it is my aging dog with Cushing's. There is nothing else going on in this apartment. And I am a television screenwriter and educator. And you can Google me, but I try to pull as much information off the web of me as possible. And I think that's 3 things. It was 4 things.
That is.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, it is amazing, first of all, that she said she likes to pull as much stuff off the web, and I still was able to find her. I'm still trying to figure out. As soon as she said it, I'm like, how did I find her and why? I'm so confused now, but that's okay. We're here to talk about confusing times, otherwise known as this dystopian times. Let me make sure I get your name right. Marie writes about dystopian times, and she had an interesting topic because she's one of the few people that sent us a topic. She was like, let's talk about what happens when dystopian times catch up with real life. What do you do when you have those projects? And Marie, can you tell us about a time that happened to you and what you have done to accommodate that?
Well, I'm in it. That's why I thought of the topic. I have been working. I used to be known as a very dark character writer. So I would write kind of like love triangles or love rectangles, and very noir, very dark, about character-driven dramas. And will be hired to do those things because I would deal with kind of like the gray areas of human nature and psychology. So, and that's what will be driven the plot. And then I moved into dystopian. I wrote for the show called Treme, which was on HBO, and by David Simon, who did The Wire, and Eric Overmyer, who's now doing Bosch. And so they both work with multi-character leads, particularly David. So I learned how to work with multi-character leads, and I went, and I saw the world kind of falling apart. And I'm kind of from California. I'm from Washington, D.C. via California, and I live in New Orleans right now. And this reminds me to give a warning. I just went through Hurricane Ida, so my brain gets a little vapid right now. I'm kind of brain cell deficient. So I may go a little off topic, and then y'all will bring me back. Anyway, so I've been studying water in California because I had an idea to do a California TV series, multi-lead, 4-season, and then and doing research instead of doing, I don't know how you all do research, but I tend to do it written, do written bios, written world building, written XYZ, blah, 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 blah. So I decided my story initially took place in 2016, California, which wasn't really existing as California anymore, and as we know it. And I started to go, okay, I'm going to go back to the origins and start in 2030. So I started doing 1-act plays to build up about a person who was migrating from what was known as Louisiana then, and going across the country and doing different aspects of what was happening to society and politics through climate change, all the time researching dystopian. So then I decided, wait, I got a writing grant. So I'm going to write like a Black Mirror climate change anthology series. Okay, so we're now like I got like 3 episodes written, and I had a Bible. I was really ready to hit the market. And, you know, it's dark and it's hard and it's dystopian, and it's a half-hour drama, which is really hard to write. And I went to, and then it was like, anthologies, no one was really interested in doing them. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, there goes, we're in dystopia. So it's like, no one's buying dystopia. So then I got like, oh, effing, you know, what do I do with all this stuff I've been working on seemingly for like 10 years, you know, these big, huge projects that took so much out of me. And is that finger for me to stop? Or, okay. And okay, so so I then decided to turn them into graphic novels, which I'm kind of doing now, and then circle back. And then I'm doing a URL on a project about climate change in space, which hopefully, you know, will be available on the web, but we're not ready to launch. We're doing a beta launch right now. So then and then I went into writer's block, basically. And because I didn't know what to write about or to do with all the stuff, and an incredible depression, because everything I had bloody written about, I'm trying to clean up my language. So I'm using bloody instead of the F word, which I would be, if we were in person, I would be bombing that thing. Anyway, so I honestly didn't know what to do with I don't know what to do with myself, because I'm living with all this material that is coming true. And it's hard, because I feel like I wasn't expecting it like now, and it's here now. And we haven't, and the pandemic has taken 2 years from our lives, and it's accelerated climate change, but also social issues. You know, some of the stuff we already knew, like institutional racism and women's rights, and you know, queer rights, and failing infrastructure, you know, all the stuff we knew about, but it's now just coming bam, 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 and really on topic. So as a writer, it's like, how do I lean into it, which I'm still figuring out. So I decided to lean into it by going into different medium and doing some flash fiction, but not actually doing it as screenplays and television series, because I know the gatekeepers aren't ready to accept it. And I need to psychologically understand how I all of a sudden became this fortune telling Cassandra, you know, foretelling. And it's like, I'm scared to say anything because I will come true. And I don't mean to give myself that much power, but it feels like, I think we all feel this when we get in the river of creativity, it takes us over. And sometimes when you're working on like really intense material, it takes a lot out of you, even if you are just a vessel for whatever may be coming into us from whatever your belief sources are, including your own self. And I think a little bit of that happened to me, but I'm also kind of living in a town that's kind of on the forefront of dystopia and has been for a very, very long time. And you know, jump in at any time and ask me questions, because I do better at being, you know, directed. So I guess my thing is if you are working, I would say the longer one I started off, the one that started in 2060, that started this whole thing back into climate change, I pushed it into magic realism and more fantasy, which is, I felt, a way to get away from dystopia. And so I guess if you're feeling stuck, the best way maybe is to genre bend it, like in an N.K. Jemisin way. You know, you can take it like somewhere way that way, or a Neil Gaiman way, or because I don't know how to find my way back to the personal stories. But that's another thing. Maybe I can write a personal, like one person in a room story, but in a future setting. So that's what I got. I mean, but to talk, I mean, you know, I would need questions to how to psychologically deal with writer's block during dystopia, or living a dystopia that you're mind help create. I'm not giving myself that much power, but
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say that like I was just reading an article in the Atlantic, and it was talking about one of the writers. They were like, well, so they felt like they had went ahead and almost predicted these times. And then when what she said was interesting to me. She was like, it's because as a writer, you take time to step back from the world, to view the world, and then to find your story in the world. So a lot of times people are just living their life, not stepping back to look at a whole situation to figure out what's perspective, who wants to who you're going to tell it for, when you feel like. And so when you do that, you're going to see a whole picture, and then you're going to move that entire society forward in a logical manner while creating new problems. And honestly, well, people have been saying for many years, society is on the cusp of not being social. There's nowhere to really not go where you were going to end up in dystopia. That's all. And then it also made me think about the saying, I believe it was Thoreau, I think it might have been Emerson. I am so bad with the classics. I'm bad. You are too? Oh,
yeah,
great. Yeah. But I was taking a course, and they were saying one of the things is that poets are supposed to be the conscience of society. So like poets are the conscience, writers are like the mirror. So like our job is to step back and then look at society, see what's wrong with society and say, hey, this is wrong. A writer's job is supposed to be like, this is what you have for society, and this is where you're going.
Yeah, and that's
a lot of writers got it right.
Yeah, I guess my problem was it was like it caught up. It was like a Doctor Who episode. You know, it's like I was expecting, not in 2019 to be in 2030. You know what I mean?
Okay, wait, knocking everything aside, because we do this here. You said Who. So who's your favorite Who? Who's your favorite Doctor?
I have to admit to all of you out there watching this, I've had some very extremely bad things happen to me, which I won't go into. And so therefore putting a lot of stress on my emotional well-being. So who better for that than I didn't start with Christopher Eccleston. I started with David Tennant because it's free on HBO Max. Everybody, if you have HBO Max, it's like starting from David Tennant, going forward. So before rewatching, I would say it would have been Tennant and Capaldi, with Matt Smith being on level with Jodie Whittaker. But that being said, and I'll go with my theory and respect to everybody. And a lot of it has to do with the writing, and especially in terms of Jodie Whittaker, who was like let down. Hello, more females on the staff. Thank you. Anyway, so I it's like you're writing the most misogynistic, female character, because you're actually not empowering them by giving a female Doctor Who. You're taking away all the power. So I did not get the first season at all. And anyway, so circling back, so I just finished Matt Smith era, and he's about to go into the Peter Capaldi. So what's been interesting, because I've been literally laying, on my couch watching this with permission from the people I get permission from. I said, I need to check out. I'm just going to do this. And they said, so I was surprised. I really like the David Tennant again. Matt Smith was better than I had anticipated. And I think Peter Capaldi is a really good actor. So I think he really stepped into those Doc Martens, and I don't know what the final season 3 will be. But so hopefully they'll redeem something. I don't know.
Okay.
Who are you?
Tom Baker's awesome because he just did the weirdness, and I feel like he bought.
Oh, you're going to the OGs.
I feel like he bought Doctor Who into who Doctor Who is.
Yeah, you're right.
Like before that, like I feel like Matt Smith wouldn't have had any place to go with it. if it wasn't Baker. And then Baker was nice, but he was still kind of like cold-hearted mean if he had to. Anyway, moving on. I mean, everyone likes Baker. Let's admit it. And then, of course, I'm like everyone else. I fell in love with Tennant because, I mean, Eccleston was adorable.
He was.
Oh my god!
And then John Hurt. We have to give
it.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We have to give a shout out to John Hurt because that episode was good. The War Doctor. But going back to Eccleston, yeah.
Oh my god! Yes. When you said it, I was trying to remember which one it was. Oh my god! Yes.
You don't want to do spoilers.
No, like, there's so much I want to say about this, and then there's like so much you want to say about like that
but I
the
think
anniversary one.
Yeah, that's the one, that people should watch, but because they had all the doctors together. But I mean, what's interesting about that show is not just Monster of the Week. I mean, it does deal with a lot of dystopian stuff way early back, like David Tennant stuff is dealing with a lot of the social issues, a lot of the climate change issues, all that stuff. And when you're watching it, the first or the second time, you're not picking up kind of the deeper writing in it. And I think that's one of the reasons why, even on the OGs, it was always in there, but it was always buried by Daleks and Cybermen and stuff like, it's kind of silly stuff like that. But it all had like a deeper underpinning, which is also all, a good writing is you have text on the front end and then subtext, that you weave in your thematics and stuff like that. But I think that's why the show has lasted so long. It's not just because it's this fun madman in a box, mad person in a box, going around and doing this stuff. I think it's because it does present issues in a certain way. Anyway, so watching it all like back to back, obviously I picked up more than, and because I've seen it 4,000 gazillion times, it's kind of like Star Trek, which is a
utopian. Watching Star Trek Next Generation.
I love, and Deep Space Nine. Have you watched that?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I started it and I was like,
oh yeah, you got to get with it.
Like everyone seems to love it though. And
it takes time. It takes time. I mean, let's face it on all this stuff, it's like, I'm not a Star Wars person, but my baby Yoda isn't here. I'm not a Star Wars person, but I'm totally into all the spin-offs they've been doing, like Bad Batch.
Oh really, my goodness. Loved it.
Hilarious.
It was great. And like, I didn't think a cartoon could be that so in depth, but I loved it. I loved it. And then it had me hooked with the storyline. And I was sitting there and I was like, at night, like 3:01.
Yeah.
And I was like, everyone's going to be like, it's a cartoon. I'm like, I know, but it's my cartoon I'm watching.
Yeah, it was all. And then are you a Marvel person?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay, you're an MCU. So those have been really interesting as well. The ones that they've been doing, WandaVision and Winter Soldier, whatever. It's a bad title. Falcon and Winter Soldier
and Falcon, yeah.
Winter Soldier, and then Loki. Well, that's easy because it's one word. And I don't know who was
so much fun. I like the Loki.
Yeah, I have to watch it again because I was like, I was kind of like, but he's so easy.
WandaVision was a very interesting take on that.
I think it's one of the more interesting television series written lately because of what they did. Yeah, but it's another one you have to stick with because they, it's not like 2 or 3 episodes in. I wish I had stuck more with the Romani origin stories of her because that kind of got lost with derogatory term gypsy jet. I'm going to do my public service here as I have some ethnicity roots and my ancestry is from that. So that's like the N word is the G word. So don't name your dog that. And so originally a lot of the characters in the MCU universe, came from Jewish and Romani ancestry because it was post World War II. And those were the biggest food groups that were put in the, killed either in Auschwitz or just gunned down. It was Jewish and Romani Sinti. And so the one time Wanda they addressed it in WandaVision, she was like wearing trope, kind of like the gypsy fortune teller thing. And, that was like all in the Romani community. Well, not everybody, but many people were going, Wait, we had a shot here. Well, you
There's
know every
so
day.
much. But a lady never speaks on these things. We're moving on.
Yeah, sorry, I know, but I mean, it was just that was the only but thing that but her, I think it's one of the better things, speaking as a multiple trauma survivor, and we've all experienced grief. I think it was one of the better shows ever, even though it's an MCU show and deals with, superheroes and stuff like that, that dealt with grief, and anger and PTSD and all that stuff. And I would be curious to see, I mean, it turns her into the Scarlet Witch. So she turns into a whole other character, which I think obviously can be metaphorically, I'm assuming, to how we deal with grief and PTSD. So I think, once again, I thought that was really brilliant on how they.
Okay, first of all, I have to say I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation / dissertation on writing and television. It has been thoroughly educational and interesting. But before we go, since you don't have a huge social media presence, I'm going to go ahead and ask the one question I think everyone would love to know is, what 3 pieces of advice would you give a writer who's looking to head into television or has a pilot and they want to take a shot at Hollywood?
Well, I think the first thing is to write as many scripts as you can. Pilots are really hard. I haven't nailed them yet. And I've been writing for a long time. My biggest advice is to, read the books, read format, and learn to harness it like poetry, because it's really art meets craft in the best way. And it's really hard to do that. And I would save your money and buy a professional screenwriting program that's not cloud-based. Just buy one that you can load, Final Draft or Screenwriter, whatever ones you have, and get familiar with the format, read as much, understand that, we are locked into in features a 3-act structure, but that doesn't mean it has to be conventional. You just have to understand it to be able to break it apart. And in television, it's basically, if you're writing for commercial TV, you're going to have commercials, and that defines your acts. But basically, a season is kind of like, 3 acts. If you watch it, you know that there's a lull. In terms of breaking in, once you find trusted readers, but don't send them the same draft. Find like a group of different trusted readers who have good eyes, because the first draft, and spend like 10 drafts on your own at least. And just, if you hate what you're writing, just don't read it. I call that the vomit draft. And then when you're done, you may have 100 pages, and then you go, oh, okay, I can get rid of 60, and you have 40 good solid pages, and then you just go right ahead. So basically, if you feel yourself getting stuck, just turn the page down and don't read it, and don't keep rewriting the beginning of your script, because that's the easy part, and then you get stuck. The hard part is the distance. I would say know your characters, know your theme, know your world building. And there's it costs money. You get access to a year, and it's called Masterclass. And M.K. Jamison and Neil Gaiman have really good workbooks on that. And even if you're writing in the real world, you still have to world build that world. So I would suggest reading not just things about screenwriting, but also books on writing in general. Keeping a journal, being organized in your drafts, do your research, however you feel you're doing that. Getting it out into the world past gatekeepers, well, that's always problematic for everybody. I would enter, depending on what level you're at and who you are, there's different things available, to apply for. Definitely do contests. I don't really know what film writing screenplay contests do for people. I don't know, unless they have good judges. But I would try to go to Austin Film Festival, because you do get access to television and film writers. And, a lot of the Sundance, it is open to, they really want new diverse voices. And there's other, that I can't think of right off the top of my head, other places, that you can do research and look for, depending on what your age group is, what your gender is, how you identify, racially, whether you're queer or whatever you are. There's like little things, not little things, but bigger things bigger money and littler money that you can apply to. Because a residency that gives you a mentor that maybe doesn't pay you for things may get you somewhere. Was that coherent? Okay.
Yes, it was. And in case it wasn't coherent for anyone, it was you can apply for things with big money or things with smaller money. And then you can get a resident, which gives you no money, but you get a mentor, which means you get to have doors open, but you get no money. Was that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more advice or are you good?
Oh, I don't know what I mean,
Okay.
you need to ask me questions, what you think that
I
Okay.
think that is the best bit of advice we have ever seen on here that was realistic and practical. So thank you so very, very much, Marie.
I have one last thing that Dr. Who would say. Be kind and don't give up. And you're brilliant. And you're brilliant. And you're brilliant. And whoever's watching is brilliant.
Love that. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I was about to go into a whole thing again. I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm in the blue box now. The blue box for only writers. Only writers. I'm joking.
That's a brilliant idea.
Right?
We have to change the box color, but maybe we could have our own TARDIS writer box.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I do. Anyway, let me wrap us up. So anyway, I am Malone. I'm part of the Anti-Thought Ladies. And if you want to catch anything that we're doing, including things we wish we hadn't told our audience, it's still on www.antithoughladies.com. I have to go there and take some things down, so you might want to hurry up and do that. Because when we say that, we're not joking. There's things we wish we hadn't put up there. So www.antithoughladies.com. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to. Oh, I lied. I skipped too far ahead. And while you're there, on our webpage, please go down to the bottom and see the 3 charities that we proudly support. You can support them too, and we thank you in advance for giving them that, well, for lack of a better word, support. Now, remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Will Nona and the Missing Jade. Bye-bye.